All right, it is 6:30. We'll call the Monday, April 22nd, 2024 City of Mayor Regular City Council meeting to order. If you could please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any additions to the agenda tonight?
I have no additions tonight, Mayor.
Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Excuse me, motion carries 3-0. With that, we will open up for public comments. If there's anybody who would like to discuss anything not on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comments and we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that needs to be pulled for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. With that, we will move right into the consider appointment selections for the city council vacancy. Do you want to add anything or?
No, Mayor, I have nothing to add other than the basis is we had two applicants, Samantha and Scott. They were interviewed at the previous workshop. City Council has complete discretion to appoint as they see fit in whatever manner they see fit. So the vacancy will serve until the end of this year, where elections will decide who will take the seat for the years after that. Other than that, turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you. So with that, any comments on any of the candidates and the interviews and how they went, and thoughts on any motions, or do we want to make a motion and vote with three people? Do we want to do something different? Do we want to draw names out of? I don't know where people stand on how they are. I can tell you where I'm at, but. Or I'll entertain a motion.
I mean, I'm open to however. I mean, I thought both candidates would do a fine job in the position. So I don't really have anything else to add other than that. So if someone wants to make a motion on someone, they could.
I'll look for a motion, and if we don't get any, then we'll move to a plan B.
I'll make a motion to hire Samantha Fouch to the city council vacancy.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? And I'll second that. So any further discussion? Someone like Nikki said, I'm exactly in the same. I think both bring great skill sets. They're different skill sets. Either would serve this council wonderfully and serve the community. So I had no concerns. I came into it. If we didn't draw out of a hat, it was going to be whatever motion was made. I was going to go along with it just because I think they're both great. So any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Samantha, welcome. And then where are we? End of first meeting in May then. This will take effect. So please reach out to Nick in the next 2 weeks with any questions, or any council members or myself, and we'll sit down with you and get you up to speed to any questions you need. We'll help out. Make it a smooth transition. So thank you.
I'll even do one better. I'll be reaching out to you. We'll figure out a time to get together, whatever's convenient, and I'll bring you up to speed on all things going on in the city.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, with that, we will move to consider adoption of resolution granting a variance to reduce the required number of off-street parking spaces from 30 to 8 stalls to allow for a commercial establishment.
Thank you, Mayor. The Planning Commission had met on April 11th to take up both the issue of the variance to reduce the required number of off-street parking spaces as well as the site plan for the Brad Quast development of the old fire hall. The variance requires the variance is as a reduction of the number of stalls from 30 excuse me, from 30 spaces to 8 stalls. And that's due to the retail office setting requires 5 off-street parking stalls, or I'm sorry, 6 off-street parking stalls for every establishment in there, and there's 5, so that equals 30. However, there is not room on site for the 30 that are there. So blow this up a little more so everybody can see it. So what you have here is the development itself of the old fire hall is here. And then these are the 8 stalls, which do qualify. You can see that there are 4 additional on this side, but because they encroach and touch the right-of-way, they do not count as off-street parking. However, they are 4 more stalls where parking can and will occur. They just don't count towards the off-street parking amount. And then there is 10 spaces on the opposite side of the street. And those do not count towards the off-street parking requirement either, but they are available for public use, and we would guess that they would be used as part of the business since they're public access. So all told, you have the 8 plus the 4 plus the 10 for the 24 total out of 30 that are needed, but only 8 out of those 30 truly count. So the variance would bring that down to what's available.
And those 4 that don't count, if they were signed with compact parking only, would they count then?
No,
Or they can't, no matter what.
they can't no matter what, because it's the depth.
Okay.
Compact would affect the width of them, not necessarily the depth of them.
And we can't have any backing out on the 25, correct? That's why there's nothing on the west side.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for the city administrator?
As mentioned, the planning commission did review this and they were recommending approval by a 5-0 vote.
All right. With that, then I'll look for motion to approve resolution 2024-7.
Motion.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion? None, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. That will move right into the adoption of a resolution approving the site plan for the redevelopment of an existing building for a commercial.
Thank you, Mayor. So the site plan follows the submissions by Brad Quast for the redevelopment of the building. It's going to split the building up into 5 internal spaces, as you can see there. And then he will be placing businesses in there which are approved for the downtown commercial use. Each of the spaces will have access to the exterior. Get to that portion of it, my apologies. Some of the exterior building elevations, each of the spaces will exit onto Forest Street proper. Out the front that way, there won't be a common space that they'll all be going to. And they will all have separate bathrooms within each of them. The stalls varying in size from about 600 and odd square feet up to, I think it's 1,200 square feet for each of the 5. You'll be improving the front with some landscaping, and that was one item that the Planning Commission did review was the landscaping requirements. For every 1,000 square feet of floor space, there is 1 tree that is required. And this is just under 4,800 square feet total, so there'd be 5 trees that were required. But if you look at the site itself, there wasn't a whole lot of room on site available for planting trees unless you were spading them right through concrete. So instead, since Brad was going to be doing planters and other landscaping at the front of the building, the Planning Commission was fine going away from the 5-tree requirement for the plantings that were in front. Other conditions as part of this, I'll just go through those. Subject to the following conditions: off-street parking variance. A variance shall be approved, reducing the required number of off-street parking spaces from the required 30 to 8. Design standards shall meet the requirements of section 152-101, building design standards of the city code. Any proposed signage shall meet the standards set forth in 152.120 through 133 of the mayor's city code. And all required sign permits are issued prior to the installation. All general lighting employed on site shall be directed away from adjoining properties. Direct or reflected glare from floodlights and spotlights as differentiated from general illumination on the site shall not be visible from the subject parcel. The applicant shall place landscaping along the south side of the building as shown in the off-street parking layout that includes planter pots instead of 5 overstory trees as the landscaping requirement just talked about. Noise and vibration generated from any use shall be in compliance and with and regulated by the MPCA rules. Any outdoor storage shall meet the requirements of City Code Section 152.090 outdoor storage and Section 152.091 for screening. The trash enclosure, that the materials and the specifications of the trash enclosure are provided and that the trash fully screens from the neighboring property and right-of-way from the proposed dumpster. All building permits that are required shall be approved and issued prior to construction. Excuse me. That all appropriate permits are in place prior to construction if needed. This could include, but not limited to, permits from, but not limited to, Carver County and the state of Minnesota. The site plan shall satisfactorily address all issues and comments raised by the city engineer, to which date there have been none specific. Expiration. Unless City Council specifically approves a different time when action is officially taken, site plans which have been issued under these provisions shall expire without further action by the Planning Commission of the City Council within 1 year of the date of the site plan is approved, unless the applicant has substantially started the construction of any building, structure, addition, or alteration or use requested as part of the site plan. The applicant shall have the right to submit an application for time extension before the expiration of the 1 year period, and the applicant shall apply for an extension thereof by completing and submitting a request for extension, including the renewal fee as established by City Council resolution. Again, the Planning Commission met on this and reviewed the site plan as well as making the amendments, variations to the code as discussed, and they were recommending approval to the City Council 5-0.
Questions? Or Nick? So Nick, and my only concern, and I'm fine with everything, my only concern is the tree aspect of it. I watched the meeting, the Plan Commission meeting, and it's my understanding that there could, in lieu of the trees, there could be a donation to donate those 5 trees to a park, correct?
Correct. So in our city's zoning code, if there is not room on site, or if the developer wished to, instead of having the 5 trees planted on site in this specific case, they could donate trees to be planted at a city park.
I didn't go back and look at other meetings, so maybe it was discussed at previous meetings. Nikki, maybe you could fill me in, but the one I watched, I didn't see a lot of discussion on it.
We did not really go into detail. We felt that the planters would have enough landscaping that we didn't really discuss possibly doing the 5 tree donation.
Okay. That sounds good. But anyone at any point could always donate trees to the city, correct?
Mhm.
All right, perfect. So any other questions? No? Okay, then with that, I'll look for a motion to approve Resolution 2024-8.
Motion.
Second.
A motion, a second, any further discussion?
Just make a couple of comments.
Yeah, you can come up to the podium, please.
If you want to go to the plan there, the landscaping, who I was working with, I didn't receive a plan yet, so I just switched. I'm meeting with, I think his name is Mangolia. He's done some of that stuff at Lutheran High up around the sign there. So I'm going to meet with him tomorrow, and I think he can do some real neat stuff. So I'll be bringing that plan of landscaping to the city. And then if you go to the either the west or the south end there of the building,
Get to
anyhow, the gable ends, you'll see some siding running like this. I'm going to switch that, maybe copper in color. I might go vertical, so I'll have to talk to Nick and John Anderson how we switch that. And then right there on the west end, that is a garage door. That's not final yet. Depending on what kind of business would take that space, it might be individual glass pieces, so that might change too. I just make you aware of that. Still working on the details there.
And otherwise it just changes, it'll come back.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move to number 12, consider action to revoke liquor license for Agave Mexican Restaurant.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure thank you, but we are coming to a regrettable and unfortunate conclusion that is affecting one of our local businesses. The City of Mayor, I received a letter dated March 12th, 2024 from the Department of Revenue instructing the city to revoke Agave Mexican Restaurant's liquor licenses due to delinquent taxes paid to the state. The city was instructed to send notification of this revocation to Agave, which was completed on March 18th. Sent those over via mail and email to Alicio. The instructions from the DOR requires the city to revoke their licenses, so they're on sale both regular and Sunday, as well as they're off sale. If the city did not receive a clearance certificate by the 30-day deadline, and the Department of Revenue would have supplied us with that. The city sent an additional letter on April 15th notifying Agave that if the clearance certificate was not received from the Department of Revenue, that the City Council would be required to revoke their licenses at the April 22nd meeting tonight. To date, and I checked on Friday with the Department of Revenue, the city has not and will not be receiving a clearance certificate on the matter. So we have reached the regrettable conclusion to an unfortunate situation. Given we have not received the clearance certificate from the Department of Revenue, I am recommending that we proceed with our required mandate from the state with the required revocation of Agave's liquor licenses. Agave may still operate so long as they do not have alcohol displayed, sold, or consumed on site. They may sell food and non-alcoholic beverages. I'll be conducting a compliance check tomorrow, as well as receiving their licenses from them. I will field any questions from City Council.
Any questions on this? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to revoke the liquor license for Agave Mexican Restaurant.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
If we get a certificate in the future, then we can reissue.
Yes, so if they become current on their payments, the Department of Revenue will issue me the clearance certificate, and their licenses would be immediately reinstated.
Do we have to have a meeting for that?
Nope, that happens automatically. Since the Department of Revenue is the one that mandated the revocation, as soon as it's cleared with the Department of Revenue, and I get that clearance certificate, I can walk right on over and hand them their licenses again.
So there's no fines or fees that go along with that either?
Nope, not from the city level.
Okay.
Any other questions? And with that, Nick, I want to thank you for your time on this, working with the city attorney, exhausting all avenues to try to have this not come here. So I do appreciate everything you've done for us to not be here in this situation tonight. So thank you. With that, I will look for a motion to approve.
Motion.
We already did
All in
that.
favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. With that, we will move to consider adoption of resolution accepting a donation from the Mayor's Lion Club of $6,000 for picnic tables for the new pavilion. So with that, I talked to Paul, and they don't need any time up at the podium, so we'll just work through it here. So with that, I'll look for a motion to approve Resolution 2024-9.
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
with the amendment for that amount to go to 6,000 instead of 5,500.
Yes, thank you for that correction, yes, and changing that to 6,000. We have a motion, a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Motion carries 3-0. So thank you to the Mayor Area Lions Club. I appreciate the donation. This is really grateful for this. It's going to be very nice. Get some nice picnic tables out there, and that pavilion's going to get ready to go here, hopefully within a couple months, or maybe before that. So I do appreciate it. Thank you. Are there any other Lions in the audience? Okay, thank you. Thank you both. So
And then, so we'll be getting the picnic tables here, and once we get them here, we'll get them arranged. And then as for this donation, what I'd like to do is get a plaque and have that placed on the building. I'm thinking on the front side, on one of the walls between the bathroom doors, so that when anybody sits there along the front side, they can easily see that plaque and know who made a generous donation towards making those picnic tables happen.
absolutely. So thank you. Thank you to, if you could thank everyone for us, that I would appreciate that. And with that, we'll take a picture then. We want all council or just all of council?
Nope,
Aren't you glad?
just city council. Not important enough.
Walking good, big smiles.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
You
Thank you very much.
I should have photobombed it and you saw it in the corner.
Yeah, yeah.
It's exciting.
All right. And with that, we'll move to consider approval to purchase picnic tables for the pavilion.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think it was a couple of years ago that the discussions on picnic tables originally happened. And if I recall correctly, and Kyle can certainly correct me on this one, there was a setup in the gym giving spacing and sizing and cones put out to give an idea. And at the time, the cost was thought to be between 15 and 20,000, depending on the arrangement. Kyle did an excellent job researching and procured a quote from Midwest Playscapes in the amount of $14,116 to furnish 6 6-foot tables and 4 10-foot ADA accessible tables. Take a look at the arrangement that was set up, if I can get her going here. So the arrangement here is you have this is the front here that faces the parking lots down here. Here's the front with the 3 bathrooms, the equipment room for the splash pad on the back side. This side faces up towards the playground equipment. And so if you could see right here, you can barely see them there. These are the supporting posts for the roof structure right there, there, and there. So we have a table on either side and then a table on one side on the ends, fitting good spacing in between so people can get in and out really well. And then a 10-foot table placed on the side of each of the posts that are here. And that will result in seating capacity of the pavilion of 76. And according to ADA code, that will require us to have 4 ADA accessible spots on site. And the 10-foot tables, that's why those are all ADA accessible, because that'll provide us the required 4 seating spaces for ADA accessibility.
Plan to have them movable, or are we gonna bolt them down?
Movable, and if we have issue,
Right. They're kind of made to be where they are, and we hope people don't move them. I mean, if they slide them out to sit in the sun, whatever, and then put them back. But we do have, I think the quote did include clips to go along with it if we want to anchor them down.
Address that if need be, but
Yep. In the meantime, though, they're pretty heavy. They're like all of our other picnic tables in our parks. It's the same brand that we have everywhere. So.
all right.
Nice.
That I'll look for a motion to approve the quote from Midwest Playscapes in the amount of $14,116 to purchase the 10 picnic tables.
Motion.
Second.
Motion a second. Any further discussion?
So that's one of the 10-foot tables there.
They'll be black in color.
Yep, black in color, match the,
How long will it take to get them?
shouldn't take too long. They come from Texas. It seemed like lead times weren't that big of a deal.
Perfect.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. That will take us to number 15, approval of amendment to terminate franchise agreement with Jaguar Communications doing business as MetroNet.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome, John, to the meeting from MetroNet. We received a settlement agreement from MetroNet, and they are looking to discontinue cable TV service within town. So they'll continue to provide telephone and internet service. They're just dropping the cable TV end of things. Met with John on that, and he explained that subscribership over the years has gone down significantly. And they're not just seeing that here, but in other Minnesota cities. And it's getting more expensive to procure the cable TV end of things to even provide to the subscribers. So you have costs going up as part of operations as well as subscribership on a decline. So they submitted to us a settlement agreement, and what this would do is effectively end the cable franchise agreement that we have that was passed in October 2018. In that agreement itself, it gives MetroNet a 90-day window to give us notice. This is just a cleaner method of having it canceled rather than going through the notification of cancellation process, waiting the 3 months and then taking care of it. So the settlement agreement before us would terminate that franchise agreement in good order that way. To quote numbers from MetroNet, they were able to supply us with subscriber counts. So at the beginning of 2023, there were 104 cable TV subscribers in town. That was at the beginning of 23, and as of March 24, it's down to 60 in town. So for a reference point for council, not too many left in town that have cable TV service.
This will take effect June 30th, 2024 if it passes.
Believe that was the date that was on there.
John, do you mind coming to the podium quick? Thank you. One, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now, what's the strategy of notifying these 60 people? Will it be right away here after tonight
Yeah,
if it
I don't know
passes? Or
exactly when it'll start, but it'll start coming over their screen,
okay,
whether next week or whatever it is, and it'll just tell them that the video services are ending June 30th, so that everybody that turns their TV on, they'll see it at some time. And they can call in and ask questions. I mean, most of the people less than 50, 55 years old are already streaming. And one of the things that we want to do is not have anybody left out, right? You got some elderly people that don't know how to stream and we'll actually do a white glove service. We'll go to their house, and most people have grandkids or kids that'll help them, but we'll actually go out and help them. You know, they'll have to have a smart TV, but we'll send a group out there and show them how to do it and how easy it is and the costs. I mean, they'll save $100 a month at least.
appreciate that.
So and if somebody calls and you can't get a hold of somebody, feel free to get a hold of us, because we don't want this to be a negative, right? It's just an economical thing. You can't keep paying ABC and NBC $10 and sell it for 50 cents. So, that's not why we're doing it. And we want to make sure we take care of the people that,
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
The sooner the better you can, so people can start setting up options.
right. Yeah, if somebody called in tomorrow and said they've heard about it, an elderly person, they should be able to get a hold of somebody, and we should get somebody out here to help them.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
No.
All right, with that, then we will look to make a motion to amend to terminate the franchise agreement with Jaguar Communications doing business as MetroNet.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Great, thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks. Any problems, get a hold of me.
Will do.
All right, with that, we'll look for consider approval of the open gym policy.
Thank you, Mayor. So this has been back on the front burner. We were working towards it as we were working through the summer months, hoping to get that implemented. And with the transition of city clerks and other things going on, hit the back burner a little bit, but then we were able to bring it back to the front. Crafted this community center open gym policy. The thrust of it really is encouraging users to participate with the upkeep of the facility. The idea is we keep this free for the community so people can come in and use it. And with their help of pushing a broom every once in a while and making sure it gets picked up and you're not coming in with muddy shoes and everybody has a good time. We don't have to invest in additional resources, time and effort and money otherwise to maintain the facility. And if we don't have additional cleaning efforts, if we don't have additional resources going in, then the whole goal is to keep this free for community to use. So have the open center gym policy before you. This was brought before the park board. They did review it and they are recommending approval of it.
All right, any questions? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the open gym policy.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Consider approval of updated fund balance policy.
So at the last workshop, we had gone through a handful of updates that were going to be applied to our fund balance policy. Strictly speaking, those were to was under the old policy. It was a requirement that anything above the 50% fund balance threshold would have to be moved to a different fund. And as explained at the workshop, that was from years gone by where we didn't have dedicated funding streams going to our capital improvement fund. So we had to make do with budget surpluses if and when they happened in order to fund those types of activities. But since we have dedicated revenue streams now, that's no longer an issue. So the language changes go from a requirement to a may instead of a shall, giving more flexibility to the city council that if they wish to shift funds for different purposes, then they can certainly do so. One quick thing I wanted to address at the previous workshop that was brought up, if there were going to be additional changes to that 50% threshold. I just want to speak real quick about the genesis about that. That was not something that I was mentioned that the auditors had brought that forth. They mentioned it, but that was a conversation I started with them about if the 50% threshold was going to be appropriate. And I think for now, we'll be fine if we leave it at that minimum 50. That's the good wording. That just means we have to have above 50%, which is something I think will be good rather than saying a max of 50 in that regard. So that was a conversation I started with the auditors. And I think with the wording we have now, this policy should be set for quite some time unless there's some GASB rules that change the whole thing.
Yeah. So one, thank you for clarifying that. I think we talked about in future meetings, and it'll be, we can sit down and kind of find out what our target, where we think we want to be from a target standpoint, just so it's above the 50%. Maybe it's going to be 55, 60, whatever it may be.
Yep.
So thank you. So with that, I'll look for a motion to approve the updated fund balance policy.
Motion.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Approval to transfer funding to the EDA.
Thank you, Mayor. At the previous workshop, we had talked about which will lead into the remaining items here. We talked about a handful of possible uses of the city's funding. We had slightly over $150,000 above that 50% threshold that we discussed. And a handful of items I brought forward for possible consideration was one, the item we have before us is transferring funding to the Economic Economic Development Authority ahead of their normal tax settlement schedule. So this would transfer the $50,000 to the EDA now instead of waiting for the EDA to get their allotment with each of the tax settlements. And so instead of the tax settlements going to the EDA, it would just replenish the city funds.
Any comments, questions on that?
Nope.
Not, I'll look for motion to transfer funding to the EDA.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Consider approval of quote to replace City Hall windows.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the other items I had looked at doing is having the windows at City Hall. So the 3 windows here, there's 3 windows in the main office and then 1 window in my office that we would propose to have replaced. We discovered late last fall during an east driving rainstorm that the windows leak, and then that was reaffirmed last week during our rainstorm when they leaked again, and then we'll see what happens over the weekend. The windows are from 1998. The gas has let go on a handful of them, and the ones, at least the 4 in that side of the building, do leak water. So given that they've lived a very long life, recommending approval and utilizing those funds above the 50% threshold to take care of that. So we got 2 quotes. One was from Metzold Homes, the other was from Voss Construction. Metzold was the lower one by a good margin, so I just had that one updated and brought back. This would be for labor and material to install Thermotech brand ThermoFit awning windows, all 7 of them, high performance low E glass. We're going with white for interior and exterior. We had looked at a black option, but it was an additional $2,500 for black. So we're going with white. So we don't need to do that. We'll use existing trim and disposal included.
So you think we've done enough studies that they do leak?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to get one. We'll probably get 1 or 2 more studies in before they get replaced.
All right. With that, I'll look for a motion to approve the Metzel Home quote for $13,590 for window replacement.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Consider approval of quote overcoat stucco at City Hall.
So this one was not talked about the last meeting. It actually came in after Kyle, John, and I had met before the last council meeting, and we're looking at the exterior and talking about how the project might go. And one of the things we talked about was the stucco on the exterior of the building. And let's see. Well, I have photos on this, and I thought I had them up, but my apologies for the slowness on this.
Jeez, Nick.
I know, I apologize.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Apologies. I can see it all right. So we went outside, took a look, and the stucco is as old as the building itself. That doesn't make it bad necessarily, but it was one thing we looked at. If you're going to replace out the windows, you're going to have a small area around the windows where you're going to have repair work that's needed. You can see in these photos, maybe you can, I'm not sure from the audience. I'll zoom in a bit more here to help with that. So around the windows, you have this sort of cracking going on. Here you can see it sporadically throughout. And a lot of it's like that. And in conversations with our building inspector, Dave Nelson, he said these are not structural in nature. These are just the result of stucco shrinking over time, and they create these cracks. So not being structural in their nature, John did supply us with a quote after the city council meeting that we received to go over the existing stucco with an acrylic stucco. So there would be a mesh base that would be placed upon the existing stucco that it would adhere to, and then the new acrylic stucco would go over the face of it. again, was not originally considered in these discussions, was not meant to be brought up after the fact. It's kind of a, oops, we forgot this sort of thing, but started talking about it more and lean towards requesting council also fund this project. Just with the demo work that'll happen around the exterior of the windows, we'll have a little band of repair work with the stucco. If you go with an option like this, we'll have all new stucco on the front of it, and it also serves as a good maintenance item as the stucco we have will continue to deteriorate over time. We can go over it as is since it's still in good enough shape to do so, and then the new stucco will just provide a new maintenance barrier that'll hopefully last again as long as the windows are
Are they
there.
recommending the alternate?
Yes, we are recommending the alternate.
$500 for.
So the base bid is 6,700. That was for this side. And then Kyle had asked about the front entry above the door, so they would match up on that. Kyle, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, there's potential it could kind of change the texture of it and everything. I think there's a few different options they can do now. We can also possibly change the color a little bit if we wanted to. So it'd be nice to have it all matching. So that was kind of that one has many cracks and it hasn't weathered as bad, but it's kind of protected a little bit more than the east side here. But yeah, some of these cracks over here, the longer it goes, the more water expands and contracts and the worse it'll get. So
Thank you. I'll look for a motion to approve the quote from Custom Stucco for a base bid of $6,700, including the alternate for the front entry above door of $500 for a total of $7,200.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Consider approval to authorize spending threshold for floor scrubber replacement, not to exceed.
Thank you. Kyle has been looking at various used floor scrubbers. We had talked about getting a new one, but that can range up to $10,000 and we don't use, a good used one would do us well. We don't want to spend that much on a floor scrubber. You can almost buy a car for that. But at any rate, we've been looking at that. There were questions at the last city council workshop about the future use of the existing floor scrubber and whether or not it had resale or trade-in value. We talked with Hilliard, who does the maintenance on our existing floor scrubber, and given the age of it and the hours, they said there was no trade-in value. It didn't have any resale value that was worthwhile. So the proposal was to move the existing floor scrubber down to the Public Works building so they could use that on their floors in their new facility. And then we would be requesting a spending limit of $6,000. We'll get it for as good of a price as we possibly can for a decent used unit for City Hall.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion to approve do not exceed $6,000 for the replacement floor scrubber.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? My only comment is, and maybe I missed it in our last meetings, but I didn't realize we were at the end of the life of ours and it has basically no value when I was talking about maybe selling. So I think moving it down to Public Works is certainly inappropriate.
I don't
yeah,
think
it's kind of
anybody
a,
knew.
Yeah. I don't recall hearing it, but that's good to know because if there's no value there and it's end of its life, you guys might as well use it up till it doesn't. So
I'll buy another one. But yeah, no, so it's kind of, it's fairly old in age and it is not a brand that isn't really made anymore. So, and it's kind of big and cumbersome. So we're going to look at something a little bit more user friendly for up here and a little smaller. Yeah. Yep.
Very helpful.
Yep.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. So with that, we'll move to council reports. Councilmember Halt, anything to report on?
Met with the EDA last Monday, and we added a few more eligible items to the grant program. Hopefully we can help out some local businesses.
We had a personnel meeting. We are just continuing our discussion, getting ready for union contract negotiations with our city staff. And then I had a planning commission and we discussed the items that we had on our meeting today.
Everything today on the agenda, perfect. And we have another personnel tomorrow, correct, 5:30?
Correct.
Wonderful. All right, and with that, I have nothing more to report on. Nikki captured the personnel committee meeting, and so with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second,
A motion, a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, Brad. So with that,
Roll into roll into our workshop.
yeah, with that, we'll roll right in the workshop and we'll call it to order.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me get this back up here. So 2 items on the workshop agenda for tonight to bring back the discussion on how we'd like to classify booster clubs, youth sports groups, and the like regarding use of the community center. As a quick refresher, we had talked about this. We don't really have a good spot in our community center rental where it's a group of families who have kids in sports who are looking to have extra practices, or they're a booster club or some other youth group that would like to use the facility. But since they're not what I would call direct affiliated with the school, we don't have a great classification for them on here. For schools and Zion, their basketball group, they started using it this year. So for educational facility types of places, we let them use it for free as long as they schedule in advance. So looking for guidance on how we would like to classify these youth groups.
Any thoughts?
Well, my first concern is I don't know how I would can you give like a zone for the clubs, because if we have, let's say, Delano comes to us and says we want to use some of your gym space, and then all of a sudden the Watertown Mayor Youth Sports Group or Booster Club comes and says we want to use your gym space, but they're like, oh, Delano already has it. I don't know. I just feel like going too far out of the city limits could kind of, I don't know. I just struggle with that just a little bit because I know how limited things are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather leave it for open gym for people within our community. I understand there might be people that go to school there, but we don't necessarily, is that making, I don't know how else to.
I think I see what you're saying. It's how do we manage that? Is
Right, I know. And that's why it's like, you don't,
Do we have a lot of scheduling issues? I mean, it's more open than it's not open, right? I mean, if maybe like Delano did a month from now reserve it, and then Booster or Watertown Mayor called up that same date, well, it's already booked. They'll just pick it. I mean, I don't know how we manage that then.
restricted to Carver County.
We could do that.
And it's not necessarily,
Start, but if it's there too and it's open,
so it's not necessarily been that, say, Delano Schools calls us one.
I was just trying to give an
Yeah, that's an
example of
example.
like,
Yeah.
because it's a little bit, I don't know.
It's been,
I see what you're saying.
it's like 3 or 4 families who have kids that want to do extra practices, either baseball or basketball or what have you. They want to come in and use the gym space and have exclusive use of it so they can do an extra practice outside of the normal practice schedule. So you want to limit that to say, the kids have to live, say, we'll toss out a limitation. The families all have to live in Mayor, and their kids have to either go to Mayor Lutheran, Zion, or Watertown Mayor. And if they meet those conditions, then they can use the facility for free or a reduced cost, and then they're able to schedule and block that off. But if you have kids that are outside of those areas, or a family that's coming in from outside the community that's part of the group, or is there a threshold limit on that? You can get pretty deep on this, but
Well,
I like that limitation.
but I also think that like youth sports groups, you know, they do have, I mean, I'm not saying, but they do have to have a fee to play. So that, you know, I don't know if you, but they also are like, I think they're nonprofit. If they have a 501c, they're considered a nonprofit.
When they're, if they're in our zone that we're establishing, I don't think we should charge them.
Right. I like the zone part, like that you were just talking about, like having
love
some of
that.
those, especially if you're going to be reserving a lot of time.
Right.
Right.
We can just see how it goes.
Yeah.
We can always change
6
this.
months or
Right.
whatever, a year, and then
If we're getting a
make
lot of
adjustments.
requests from outside the zone,
Accommodate others if we can.
absolutely. If we have nothing and nobody's coming forth, you know, say in 6 months and Delno wants in, okay.
And maybe the groups can't necessarily reserve it for a length of time. It's more like month by month basis. You can call and see if that space is available in February. You know, like you call in January to reserve February. So you're not saying, well, I want it from November to March.
Right.
If you're not associated with the schools or, you know,
So keep it to what I'll call one-offs at a time, not scheduled. I want the gym, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the next 6 months for 3 hours, book us in
right.
type of thing. It's,
It's kind of like how we prioritized paid events over free usage, like on the weekends. It might be a similar situation.
sure.
Yeah, it seems like we got to play it out for a little while.
Yeah.
Just see how it.
And bring it,
goes.
we bring it back? You know, like
'Cause I-
what kind of groups are choosing to,
It's been families, it's been youth, families part of youth group associations, families part of booster clubs. It's been essentially extra practices, but they want exclusive use of the gym, which is understandable. You don't want to be practicing and all of a sudden
Right.
3 families walk in for open gym. That's certainly understandable on that front.
so
But-
you're saying, okay. So it's not necessarily like the youth sports group, like the Delano Youth Basketball Association isn't calling and saying we'd like to reserve. It's just residents that live in Mayor that possibly use that play ball in that association want to reserve. Well, then that would just be like a resident reserving the space. So that would, I would say you would be the regular rate for however many hours, because it's not necessarily, they're not doing it through the organization like a 501.
What if they do?
Then I think then we follow that.
That's where I need the guidance on, because that's how this tends to happen. Is I could see it happening. Sorry, I can see it happening as well, if you're just a handful of families, but if they're all part of the booster association and the booster association knows that if they put their stamp on it, they can get it for free, that's what will happen. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I just need to know how to pivot when I hit those situations. Because as you can see, it's just not well defined. I need that definition on how to handle it.
I don't want to charge residents because they want a little extra practice though. Either.
But we charge residents to rent, if I wanted to have my graduation party here, I'm a resident.
Right.
Who's to say that I'm not playing basketball and serving food,
True enough, I paid for my wedding and stuff too, yeah.
you know? So, I mean, I think if you have somebody that does it, then that's a weird case, but if they're not going through if
So
it's
it
not
would
the,
be $100?
Yes.
Yeah, but they're only gonna be here for a few hours.
Correct.
I thought we had a hourly rate.
That was the old structure.
Oh,
So that's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah,
$100
that's what
is,
we add back in for these.
I think
kind of events.
$100 is outrageous to practice for a few hours.
I mean, we had it where like originally was you rent the gyms, if you rent the gym space and the upper level, it was like $200. If you just did the upper level, it was $100. But then it's like, it's
There's
really
also-
hard to just,
There's also a 4-hour booking that
Right.
you could do and all this other stuff. And what we generally had when we discussed it with Janelle is we didn't have a whole lot of that 4-hour or upper or lower. We didn't see much of that at all.
right.
What we saw is more like this. They rent it for the full day and they want to use it. And then we made it dependent on the sizing. We're just starting to get more requests for these youth groups and where we didn't have a lot of them before. So it could be that if they want to rent it, small group rental, it's going to be 50 or less residents, you charge them the nonprofit rate, or we can add a specific youth rental fee in here.
Well, maybe we're just thinking too much into it because we have open gym. So if
True.
we have open gym and if they don't like that, they can't share it. I mean, the likelihood that they're sharing the space is probably low. But if it is, they just have to deal with it.
And that's
And I think we just have to be simple like that and just say, like if you're going to rent the space and you're not a 501c3, it's whatever. And it will be $100 for that 3 hours that you have, and then they can choose to pay that or not.
Yep, I'm fine with that. That's the other
And
route
that's
you could go is.
probably the cleanest way, and everybody still gets to use it. And then we still have the discretion if a local school in the area wants to reserve that space, it's
Yep.
still available for them.
Yep.
Because they're that's who the space is for.
And they wouldn't be necessarily kicked out of here at any certain time, correct? Other than midnight, right?
Right, so if
Okay.
they were to pay the $100 and rent it, they get like anybody else.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Not saying that they're gonna practice obviously till midnight, but they'd have passed that 8, 9 o'clock hour if they were still here. Okay.
Correct.
Would it get too messy to add in a 2-hour, up to 2 hours? I mean, I know we're going the opposite after we cleaned it up, but does it make sense now for these specific items? 2 hours, $25, up to 2 hours, $25 or no?
I think that convolutes things too much because then you're just gonna be people saying, well, I'm under 50, but I only want it for 2 hours so I can get the cheaper rate and it's gonna.
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna
think we
really
just stay with
mess you
clean
up.
and we see,
Because I think
What-
at that point, I wouldn't even do a 50 or 100. I would just say under 2 hours. I just put a number. I wouldn't be concerned with the number of people, but you guys got to manage it, so it might be too messy. I'm sorry, Nikki.
no, I was just saying, I think we keep it clean like this. They have the open gym offers and just say at this time, we're not reserving the space.
Unless they're paying.
Unless you pay the $100
Or if they can prove they're a nonprofit,
or you're a nonprofit.
they could get the $37.50 rate.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Otherwise, there is open gym and we don't usually see a lot of people on certain days, come up, see if it's available. And if it is, great. If it's not, then you can share the space. And it's not like there's 100 people in there.
Right, and we could, as open gym goes on, we'll certainly have a feel for the ebb and flow of when people are there, when they aren't. So we can say, well, Friday mornings, we hardly see anybody between these times. So if you can get people in, or, Tuesday evening seem to be really slow, slotted in there. Give them that kind of advice.
Because we do have quite a bit of open gym time. And I feel is a better for our community. And we just still are working on getting the word out that it's open. And I want to try that model for a while. I mean, the park board has kind of really thought about that and wanting to have that as available as a nice perk. I'm pretty sure winter is going to be busier than summer.
Yeah, I think we just revisit it and we'll get some input and see how it goes. And if people are coming in and asking and don't like that, they're leaving and we're not getting a lot of open gym. And as you manage it, I think we just revisit it in
Mhm.
6 months, 9 months, or a year.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, number 2. Or 3.
Item number 3, discuss a request to install a crosswalk on 2nd Street Northwest for Zion Lutheran School. I'd like to thank Jerry for stopping by and probably reminiscent of his old days when he was mayor of the community. And
I'm here because John Kaufman, our administrator, still had a chance to get out of the meeting. So if you have any questions, he asked me to come and fill in. So
I don't blame him. And talking with Zion Lutheran, you guys just went through your accreditation process for your school, and under the safety portion of their accreditation as the origins of this request. The two items they came to the city with was there are some no parking signs located in two locations around here and here. We had those signs replaced. I think they were like $16 and some odd cents for the city to replace those, so we're happy to do that. And then the request came to stripe this section right here from across Second Street from the school to the church, since there's crossing in betweens for activities. That's the second part of the request from Zion Schools as part of their accreditation renewal. So wanted to bring it to city council at a workshop for discussion on that part. So we'd be looking at doing the painting stripes. You can see we already have the ped ramp, so it'd be in between those right there. You know, Kyle, you were looking into if we needed to have signage as well.
Yeah.
So on that front, so wanted to get council talking about it ahead of time along with Zion.
just to, they will make use of the crosswalk once a week. They have chapel service every Wednesday.
Would you mind coming up to the podium, Jerry? Thank you. Sorry.
Back there.
We get a lot of comments that people can't see who's talking.
No, the need for the crosswalk is basically every Wednesday, the school has chapel services in church, their weekly chapel services. So they cross the street then, crosswalk. There are probably a couple other times during the week. There may be times when a class or classes will come over to practice singing in church, so they may need to crosswalk then. And then also, I guess the other one that is not necessarily associated with school, but every Sunday morning, Sunday school takes place in the school building. So all the kids from church transfer across the street to get to Sunday school, or they go to Sunday school first, they come to church. That way, so the crosswalk would be, would be very helpful then too.
Thoughts, anyone?
I don't have an issue with it. It's a good idea.
And then do we paint the stripes, or do you have to have a service come in and paint the stripes?
We'll have a service come in and do it.
Okay.
It's pretty reasonable to have them. The same company does striping our parking lot lines and everything. I think we have to re-stripe the basketball court out in Fieldstone anyway, so.
Do we need flashing lights or anything like that?
I wasn't planning on flashing lights, but
No.
just, I think we do need to put just crosswalk signs pointing at the crosswalk, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think at that point, I'm not sure flashing lights would be necessary there.
No, there's not enough high-speed traffic right there.
Actually, I think we have some because we took down the ones and put up the other ones on Highway
Would
25.
Zion be open to cost sharing on this, Jerry? I mean, from a city, from my
I
perspective.
can't speak to that because I'm just here
I
to
don't
fill
see
you
it
in.
as being necessarily a safety issue, more so an accreditation for that aspect of it.
Well, I guess I'd look at it as it's a safety issue because it's, there's a lot of traffic going across that at sometimes. I mean, you got 150 kids going across it once a week for sure. And then Sunday mornings, there's probably 50, 60 kids in Sunday school that will crisscross at various times. So,
Will it be benefit to, because that's our sidewalk system, and we eventually with the sidewalk committee, we want to bridge and actually extend the sidewalk. That's part of, we have, a spot after the school to the city hall. We're missing a section. So it would benefit the entire community by having a crosswalk there. So I don't necessarily think that I need to cost share with it, because I could walk across that and be using the crosswalk lines.
I can't imagine it's really expensive to paint lines on a road.
I can't, I was just asking the question. I'm just looking at options.
No, I know.
I don't think this isn't a big traffic road either, so I don't want to make it seem as we're getting 80 cars an hour going through there and we need a crosswalk, but I can get on board with it. It was just a question if.
Yeah, and I'm not, I
seems
can't
reason-
speak.
It seems reasonable to me, but again, it's a couple $100. I'm not really concerned, Jerry. Yeah, if that's what they want, I'm okay with it.
Sounds
I
good.
see it as necessary.
I do have one other question. I may know the answer to this anyhow, Ray, but the crosswalk on Blue Jay and second and third, there's a crosswalk there now to the north entrance of school. Who would be responsible, who would put flashing signs there? Or even the signs with the red lights going around it?
This one right here?
Yeah.
Who put that in? Would that been the county?
Is that a county road that the county would be responsible for that, or who do we contact? The reason I ask is I sub drive LHS's van various times of the year, picking up kids, and one of the kids I pick up is a fourth grader at Zion. And so when I pick up the other kids, I come back here, well, Zion doesn't open till 8 o'clock, so I usually end up parking about here someplace and wait till the doors open. And during that time, I see a lot of traffic across here. I also see a lot of cars going back here faster than the speed limit. Now, I was wondering if there's any way you can get any lighting on those signs to draw attention to it a little more. It's like, even the red lights that flash around, like see, so on stop signs or something, who would be the people to contact for that?
First stop would be Carver County. Since it's their right of way, I understand, this was the same advice I gave when we talked about the signs in the crosswalk, and then Carver County kicked it back to the city and said, nope, city signs, city, it's on Second Street, even though it's within the Blue Jay right of way and it's a county road right of way, they deferred to the city to make that decision. So I would want to follow the same
Put the county
process,
first and,
talk with the county first, and if the county says, nope, we're kicking it down to the city, they can defer that to us, that's fine, but I don't want to assume that we have jurisdiction in their right of way
Okay.
right off.
I'll contact our county commissioner and go from there, so.
Or yeah, if you contact county engineer, public works, and just ask them or commissioner.
Uh,
I know the city, we put the ones on Highway 25 and we paid for
That's what I was just gonna say, who did the 25 ones?
them. Yep, and there
State
are,
highway.
We had to get approval.
We had to get
God had to have give the approval, but we have to pay and maintain them.
So we'd have to have probably county approval if.
Yeah, there are signs there right now. It'd just be nice if it's just something to draw attention to those signs a little more.
Mhm.
And basically before and after school is when it's busiest there.
Yeah. I mean, the struggle we've always had with crosswalks is it gives the walkers a false sense of security.
Oh, yeah.
So, outweighing all of that too, just because you push a button doesn't mean that cars are going to stop when you cross.
True story.
Yeah, we know. I found it out down by the fire station too, Ray, so.
Oh, yeah. But that was one thing that I remember when we were really discussing putting them in and we didn't for a while was because it does give a false sense of security. Like I don't cross until I know every car is stopping. So I wait.
Oh, my wife loves to push the button and make cars stop, so.
No, they'll stop, but I make sure they're stopping.
Yeah, I know, she
because,
does too, yes.
There has been some close calls.
So as far as the other crosswalk there, we're okay on that then, on Second Street?
Sounded like it, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll adjourn.
Thank you.